Let's get one thing straight. You're either a fan of The Office or you're a fan of Friends. Who watched The Office with you? And this entire sitcom is centered around one iconic character, Michael Scott, the boss of the workplace that the show is based on. Usually, Michael is pretty lighthearted, but one day, he had to make a tragic announcement to his employees. Attention, everyone. Your coworker, Meredith, was hit by a car this morning. But thankfully, I was there and I could rush her to the hospital, and because of me, she is going to be okay. The entire incident was terrifying for Michael. It absolutely shattered him. It also shattered his headlights. And actually, the entire front part of his car may or may not have had a Meredith-shaped dent in it. Yes, Michael did whitewash his crime in that scene, but that's not anything unique. We all whitewash or gloss over our mistakes to make them seem positive. And businesses are especially skilled at covering up their flaws. Facebook, when we talk about privacy. Actually, businesses seem to love the art of whitewashing so much that they invented their own type of it, greenwashing. And while you and most consumers have probably never heard of this term before, you fall prey to greenwashing almost every time you go shopping. Think about plastic water bottles. You know how harmful these are to the environment. They litter nature from the Glacier Ridge Metro Park to the Grand Canyon. And yet, what's plastered across almost every plastic bottle cover? A scene of greenery, mountains, and beautiful nature, making you subconsciously feel like the product is eco-friendly. Obviously, this could not be further from the truth. The litter that covers the earth comes from the same product. And that is exactly what greenwashing is. When a business misleads consumers to sound more sustainable or friendly to the environment than it really is. Why would a business do this? Well, Business Wire magazine explains that 78% of consumers are more likely to buy something that's labeled as eco-friendly. And wouldn't you do the same? I know that if I walked into JCPenney and felt like I was helping the environment by shopping there, I would be glad to go back to that store. And it's all because consumers want to feel less guilty when we're buying something. In a way, we all want to be greenwashed. We want to be told that we are the heroes, making conscious choices that just so happen to be from our favorite brands. Admittedly, I am the perfect example of falling for greenwashing. Once I was at Uniqlo, and I was shopping, and I found a pair of jeans that had the label, finished with only a teacup's worth of water. What? But what about the terrible environmental effects of the fashion industry that I'd been reading about? But I mean, go Uniqlo for being eco-friendly. I bought the pair of jeans not only because they were cute, but also because I felt like I was helping the environment by buying them. But then I went home, and that's when I did a little research, and it turns out that finishing is an actual step in the jean-making process. It's a small step near the end when they add texture to the jeans. So while Uniqlo had implied that they only used a teacup of water to make the jeans, it really still took them almost 12,000 gallons of water. All of this fake sustainability has a tangible impact on consumers, on businesses, and of course, on our planet. Let's start off with the area that most humans on Earth agree is the most important part of the planet, us. Well, to be frank, greenwashing has probably scammed you. Chances are you've seen a product vaguely convince you that it's eco-friendly, and maybe you were swayed by that marketing to buy it. But who knows if it's actually sustainable? There are actually articles out there explaining to Americans how to save their wallets from greenwashing, because businesses are so effective at it that consumers are spending more money thinking they're saving the earth. Now let's move on to the area that every teenager seems to hate with a burning passion right now. And no, it is not themselves, but rather businesses. Because yes, businesses do also get hurt by greenwashing. Specifically, the companies that are actually trying to help the earth. For example, have you ever bought shoes from Allbirds? If you have, then the package that your shoes came in was made of recycled cardboard. Your laces come from recycled plastic, and a lot of their shoes themselves are made of renewable wool. Maybe Allbirds isn't perfect in terms of sustainability, but it really did build its core business model around the earth. But in this day, who even cares? H&M markets the same types of claims about its lines, despite being the model example of how fashion is destroying the earth. The truth is, corporate sustainability is just like gold. You can't tell whether it's fake from the outside. And when fake claims and genuine claims yield the same financial results, companies have no incentive to be truly sustainable anymore. Finally, do all these illusions of sustainability impact the environment? Well, if a tree is cut down in the middle of the forest and no one's around to hear it fall, does it still fall? Of course it does. Even if the shocking effects of consumerism are oblivious to the shoppers that are exposing them, they still exist, and they are hurting our home. According to The Guardian, just 100 companies have been the source of over 70% of greenhouse gas emissions ever since 1988. The Natural Resources Defense Council says that just the top 15 American food and beverage companies emit over 630 million metric tons of greenhouse gases every year. That's more than all of Australia emits annually. Nowadays, it seems like businesses are getting more sustainable. But a lot of this is, once again, deception. Nestle announced that it had ambitions for making its packaging completely reusable or recyclable by 2025, but it never said how it would get there. And BP started blasting out advertisements implying that it was rapidly moving towards green energy, when 96% of its spending is still on oil and gas. And these companies will continue to greenwash. Honestly, we can't blame them. Switching to truly eco-friendly practices often costs far more money than it saves in the short term, as with any change. Making the switch is especially hard for public companies, which have to sell shares on the stock market. The CEO has to constantly make a short-term profit to please investors and keep the stock growing. But research papers and magazine articles outline the potential nightmare we could face if companies continue their practices. We don't have to see this become reality. And thankfully, the power to prevent this nightmare lies in our hands. You already know what would be best for the environment. You've heard it from 1,000 different places before. Boycott the companies that employ fast fashion, that greenwash, that are cruel to animals. Actually, the best plan is probably just to boycott everything, move to South America, and become a subsistence farmer. But no, we have to become a little more realistic in our solutions. And the first step is to just start recognizing greenwashing and to stop falling for its bait. It's not too hard, just keep these 3 words in mind: central, specific, and certified. The first rule of thumb that we should use is asking ourselves this question: is the sustainability that's advertised central to the company's business model? For example, if you walk into H&M, then you'll find different conscious lines, but this does not mean the company itself is sustainable. You also see the classic conscious or non-central claims that businesses advertise everywhere. But if a company is only making a small portion of its profit off of green practices, then the vast majority of its revenue comes from harming the environment. Second, are the claims made by businesses specific? You'll often see brands paste a cute green picture on their products, and voila, suddenly they're making you think the products are sustainable. You also see the classic buzzwords everywhere you go nowadays: sustainable, eco-friendly, conscious, green. They're plastered on every product you see at Walmart these days. But of course, every brand can technically put these words on their products. The reason that greenwashing is so easy is because there is no one definition to the word eco-friendly. So every brand can call itself sustainable. This is why it's so important to look for the specific facts. Was the plastic reused? Was the product made in your country? Or are there any specific statistics about the company's products? And finally, look for certifications. Because even if a company displays sustainable facts, you could still be tricked like I was in Uniqlo. Usually, these 3 certifications are the most valid. First, Rainforest Alliance certified. Second, Fair Trade certified. And finally, the Green Seal. We don't have to spend hours on every shopping trip looking for these signs. They really only take a couple of seconds, and at times we will want to buy something that's not sustainable. In the grand scheme of things, that is fine. As long as the general trend starts to shift towards demanding true sustainability now, we can jumpstart the mission to save our planet. But in the end, sustainability is a sacrifice. Now is the time to show businesses that greenwashing will not make them money any longer. The only way for them to keep the markets pleased is by making their core business model green. It is time to redefine the way we look at businesses. Are their products eco-friendly or just economy-friendly? By doing so, we can allow businesses to be the vehicles steering us towards a greener future. Let's just make sure Michael Scott isn't the one driving. Thank you.